Hey guys, Artarot here, bringing to you a slightly older but still somewhat intriguing story involving a bank robbery. Well, sort of a bank robbery. I mean, there was money stolen, and it was stolen from a bank, but technically, no, you know, let me start again. Hui Gao, I'm actually just going to put that up there for you, a New Zealand resident, sought to apply for a $100,000 overdraft, presumably for his business. Which, hell, it's a large amount to begin with. The bank, however, made a teensy tiny little mistake that sort of resulted in them depositing, well, $10 million into his account. Gotta say, I would hate to have been the clerk caught for making that mistake. I mean, I get glares at work just for accidentally handing out two $5 bills instead of just one. But anyway, within a few days, the bank discovered the error, and they sought to correct it. But there was just one problem. A rather sizable chunk of the money that had been in the account was no longer, and this is official banker terminology, in the account. So they tried to contact Mr. Gao to find out just what had happened. But he didn't seem to be answering his phone, or living in his place, or possibly residing within the same country he had resided in a few days ago. That's right, the world's least violent bank robber had transferred over 6.5 million New Zealand dollars to various offshore accounts, then basically ran like hell, along with his girlfriend Kara Herring. This was back in 2009, and a year or two afterwards, Interpol finally tracked Gao down, finding him in China. His girlfriend had already turned herself in sometime earlier, after breaking up with Gao and returning to New Zealand. Apparently, though, even after his capture, there's still about $3.8 million that has yet to be recovered. Gao won't say where it went, though frankly they should probably just check the bra of every stripper from New Zealand to China and back. So let's analyze the reasoning here, shall we? On the surface, alright, it might seem like a great idea to someone who's, well, recently gone through a lobotomy. After all, there's millions of dollars just sitting there in your bank account. More than enough money to go hide halfway around the world and live a life of comfort and luxury, right? God, no! It's a stupid idea from day one, and here's why. First of all, identity. The biggest obsession with bank robbers is keeping their faces hidden, their names secret, their identities unknown for one very simple reason. It becomes 10 times easier for the cops to find you when the cops know who to look for. Now these folks, they knew Gao's name, his face, hell, they knew everything about him except for where he was at that moment. Even ignoring the fact that Gao is easier to find, even assuming that he somehow finds a city that's far enough away and obscure enough to hide from those seeking him out, exactly what kind of life does he expect to lead? Of spending the rest of his days constantly hiding, unable, let's face it, to even really spend the money in a particularly large quantity, since there's always the risk that a multi-thousand-dollar purchase will draw attention. Always wondering if this is the day they catch up to you. Who could live like that? His significant other couldn't, obviously, given she turned herself in. Second, come on, it was millions of dollars that he stole, from a bank no less, which is to say, you can bet these folks would be plenty eager to get it back, or at the very least, bust his ass down to make sure that nobody gets that bright idea a second time. I mean, come on, the stakes are just too high to give up on finding him. They would never stop chasing him because even if the bank spent a solid $1 million on bounty hunters and private investigators, even if they spent $2 million, it'd still be cheaper than just giving up and letting him go. Besides, who wants to admit losing that much money, especially nowadays with everyone not exactly thrilled with the banking system as it is? Now, the time between the bank making this mistake and the bank discovering this mistake was only a few days, by which time, as mentioned, Gao was gone. So this was definitely a spur-of-the-moment kind of thing. I mean, guy finds out there's a bunch of money, he grabs it, he goes. It's even possible that the very next day, maybe when he was on the plane to China, he realized what a stupid mistake this was, but figured that he was already in too deep, I mean, come on, it's a feeling everyone can relate to. Like when you lie to your parents about something, and the moment the lie is out of your mouth, you know that they're going to find out sooner or later, and you know that they're going to be even more upset because you lied to them in the first place, but you still stick to your guns, even in the face of impending doom, even knowing that it would be easier on you if you just came out and told them. Well, same idea here. But he was wrong. Taking the money, skipping town, that's bad enough. But at least that could be chalked up to simple human fallacy, a knee-jerk reaction to a sudden spring of wealth from nowhere. You could even engender a little sympathy with a jury or a judge using such a defense, especially if you yourself bring the money back without having to be hunted down. Impulse decisions like this happen all the time and can be taken into account. Hell, if I found even $1 million in my account one day, God, the temptation to spend some of it would be overwhelming. Extending his little hideaway to 2 years, on the other hand, gives him no defense whatsoever, because he could have turned himself in at any time. He wasn't considered dangerous. He wouldn't have been shot on sight. I mean, yeah, he probably would have gone to jail, but for a lot less time than he's no doubt going now. I mean, they're going to have to punish him all the more strictly now, because they don't want to send the message, yeah, you can just steal about $6 million and spend 2 years avoiding us and get away with a slap on the wrist. His crime isn't as serious as the fact that he let it stretch out for this long. Now, I'm sure you're all model citizens, but just keep in mind that if you ever end up hitting someone with your car or something else that you didn't mean to do, look, accidents happen, and people understand that. But the moment you run and have to be tracked down by the authorities, you lose all right to claim innocence on those grounds. Turning yourself in is always an option, and indeed, in this case, it's been stated that this man's sentence will be harsher, specifically because he had to be chased down rather than turning himself in. I believe he's been sentenced to 4 years and 7 months in prison. His female accomplice, the one who turned herself in on the other hand, is just going to have to deal with a year of house arrest. And though it could be argued that this lighter sentence is in part due to her less direct involvement, I imagine the bulk of it is due to her cooperation. Anyway, this is Arterot reminding you to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And also reminding you not to turn a stupid mistake into an even worse one by avoiding the responsibility. The courts and your parents have no sympathy for someone who tries to run, and they never will.